the Patriots team might actually be good, and they're very scrappy. It's the like who's. I feel like they are going to love playing spoiler in this spot.
Welcome back to Snapback Bets. Week 3 in the NFL. We are going to give you our 5 best bets as we do every single week. I'm Jack Settleman. I am in between a mush, a sharp, anything you want to call me. We got the fish on the couch next to me. We got Tim, our resident sharp, and we got Uppy, your degenerate uncle. And this week, we are going to give you 5 winners because last week we gave you 5 losers. We're 1-9 in the contest. And the contest prize has millions and millions of dollars in prize pool. But we are in a unique spot here. We have a chance to win the last place prize through 4 weeks, which will win $25,000. So I'm sure you at home have been in this spot before. Do you start fading yourself to turn your fortunes around? But you've never been in this spot before, where if we lose 2 more weeks, we're going to take home $25,000. So what do? How do we come to the table and say we want to now intentionally lose? We agree that it's probably not possible. We're going to talk about that right now. Tim, what do you think? Do we want to go for the win? Do we want to go for the loss? How do we even approach this situation?
I mean, so hearing you say it out loud, 25 grand, and we just have 2 more weeks to pick poorly, like that sounds awfully appetizing.
It feels doable. It really does.
But if it was obviously pick 'em, it would be like they're spreads for a reason. I think we got to stay true, try and give winners to our core audience who believes in us down to the T that we can make the comeback and ultimately win the $1 million. And if things just continue as they do, the best case is we win 25 grand.
Yeah.
What I was going to say ourselves will get us too many wins.
The self fade, my brain is not big enough for those mental gymnastics where I'm trying to handicap the outcome, but then take the opposite side of what I like. I think I'm good enough at just picking losers that if that's the case, that will probably continue.
Uppy, you have the only winner of the entire squad, though, so don't sell yourself short. Tim, the public's 11-30 against the spread to start the season. 11-31 actually now with the Falcons. What's the play?
Well, everything got that's a little bit deceiving because favorites of I think 7+, 6+, whatever the number is, through the first 2 weeks have all lost outright. So I think it's 7+. I give you the official number, but it's been absolutely insane. So the books still take home a profit there because those are tied into the most amount of teasers, the most amount of parlays, Survivor. So, I'll give it to you right now. Underdogs of 7+ points to start the season are 3-0 straight up. That would be the Raiders +9 at the Ravens, the Patriots +8 at the Bengals, and then the Bucks +7.5 at the Lions.
We liked the Bucks last week. What happened to that?
I wanted 7.
Yeah, we didn't get the hook.
That was the first bet that I made last week on my own was Bucks after hearing Tim's rationale, and we didn't take it because we didn't quite get the number. And they win out.
The one on the Rams was extremely
important. We're not doing this.
And then we felt the same way about Cleveland. I liked Cleveland 3.5. Yeah, we didn't play it because it was 3 or 2.5 even maybe. So we didn't play that. So that. Like individually, I was fine last week in terms of like what I ended up playing. I picked my worst one for the contest, and that's can be a major pain in the ass.
I will say that I'm now looking at my early bets for week 2. So Monday morning, Giants +3, that push. Vikings +5.5, 1 straight up. Cleveland +3, 1 straight up. Bucks +6.5, 1 straight up, and Cardinals +2, 1 straight up. So.
Jack's note sheet that does literally nothing for anyone swept the board.
So no. I think this is a good evaluation, right? Because clearly Uppy won some money. Tim won some money.
I won money.
You won some money.
Yeah.
Clearly something happens between Monday morning and Wednesday afternoon when we make these selections. Is the contest too deep in our head? Should we be going with our gut more often? But that leads to a bigger conversation because right before we got on, we were discussing where we're going to land this week. And Tim said he likes Tennessee against Green Bay. And I said, well, Green Bay, did you see Jordan Love is practicing? He had not seen that at Wednesday afternoon at 2:15 p.m. Now, that led to a conversation, which I think is unique. Maybe the people at home, this doesn't apply to you as much, but it does apply to game theory and how we like to teach on this show. At 1-9, maybe it's a little naive to say we're going to teach you something, but
I think we know game
here.
theory. We don't apply game theory.
But this is our first big opportunity to really look at a contest game theory. So for those who don't understand what we're referencing here, Green Bay is going to move, if Love ends up playing, from +3 or +2.5 in the contest down to possibly 2.5-point favorites. I think Love would probably be 5 to 6 points on the spread. Now, everyone, because of that amount of value, is going to wait till Sunday and lock in Green Bay at +3 if that contest line comes out like that because of the immense amount of value. Now, we could make a play because we're far down only through 2 weeks and essentially go for a 2-for-1. We could play Tennessee, which no one is going to play, at the -2.5. If they win the game by 3, not only are we going to pick up a win, but we're likely going to fade 90% of the field. So you get this 2-for-1 opportunity. Is it too early to do that? And here's actually a different game theory. If we are playing for this booby prize, should we take Tennessee? Because we're getting the absolute worst number here, and our chances of losing another one are actually higher. So I would say when we get to the consensus conversation, I think we should highly consider Tennessee, whether we think it's positive game theory to be the biggest loser or even to play catch up. So once we get there, we'll get there. Casey, you're the fish. Give us pick number 1.
Out of curiosity, how much longer do I stay the fish when no one else on this show gives a winner?
But, well, we would all be fish, but you don't lose the fish title just because we're all losing.
Fair. All right. My fish play of the week is the Ravens. I believe it is -1.5. Tim and Jack both played our favorite game on this YouTube channel on Monday. Have guessed the spread and thought the Cowboys should be favored at home, coming off a bad loss, with the Ravens looking shaky, 0-2 off of a Raiders loss. I thought the Ravens would be favored. They end up being favored. I think they started at 1 and it's now at 1.5. For me, this looks like the books are absolutely begging everyone to take the Cowboys at home as underdogs because the Ravens are 100% winning this game and they are trying to save themselves as much money as possible by potentially trapping people into a Cowboys at home off of a bad loss underdog play. This is just a game that the Ravens flat out win every single time. And I was talking to Jack about this earlier. This is a big inflection point of the Ravens season. Either this game is going to show the Ravens are still good, 4th or 5th Super Bowl favorites preseason, and everything is going to stay true. They're going to win this game and get back on track. Or what people have said is starting to creep in is shit might hit the fan for the Ravens. You go 0-3, Harbaugh's on the hot seat, the offensive line is a mess, and kind of where do the Ravens go from here? Do you blow it up and try and restart next year? I think the Ravens are still that team that's very good, and I think they win this game by around 6 to 9 points. I love the Ravens here. Lamar owns NFC teams. We've seen that time and time again. If you don't see Lamar often, teams struggle against him. That's why the likes of the Steelers, the Bengals, and the Browns have had some success against Lamar because they see him a lot. They're used to it. NFC teams that have only seen him once or have never seen him before, they struggle big time. I love the Ravens in this spot. I would 100% guarantee that the Ravens cover and win this game. And on the other side of that, I am a Ravens fan, and if we lose, again, we do have that $25K prize if we continue to lose. So that's my play.
Jack, I mean, I think you should have the first word as the other Ravens fan.
Yeah, I guess I would question Casey's thought process here. He's saying we're at this inflection point. We don't know what this Ravens team is. Are they a disaster with a broken O-line, with a head coach on the hot seat that are, not putting the weapons next to Lamar Jackson that are perceived? Or is this a good team that lost 2 games that, the first one comes down to the end, the second one, they should have won that football game. They kind of collapsed at the end. I feel like everything you've said over the last 2 weeks is let's not dive into the unknown. And then you come and you say, I'm confident that they are this team. As a Ravens fan, I don't think we've earned, the Ravens have earned that confidence at all. Like the O-line is a massive problem. Harbaugh is on the hot seat. Tensions are high. There are question marks all across the board. So outside of Lamar against NFC, which I think that is a very strong handicap, Lamar is a favorite. Historically, he's better as an underdog. This is obviously a role where it's 1.5 points, so it's not going to make a huge difference. You do get a weird spot with the Cowboys, and you're talking about the sports books trying to trap people into betting Dallas. As much as Dallas gets flack for being America's team and the team that underperforms, maybe I'm off base on this. I don't feel like people rush to bet Dallas. Like they aren't the team that, people rush to bet Kansas City. They rush to bet Philly. They love those types of teams. I don't feel like Dallas is necessarily that. So I just wouldn't make a pick on this. I do lean Ravens because of the Lamar NFC thing. I think it's very, very real. But yeah, Tim, I know you guys may have been leaning actually on Dallas. And I thought with Tim, Dallas was going to be 3-point favorites in this spot.
Yeah, so I think Casey brings up a good point when you talk about you think there's a lot more Dallas haters than people that like Dallas. Dallas is a New York Yankees, Notre Dame type brand. They do tend to be one of the most popular teams bet. It's almost like the Cowboy haters are louder than the Cowboys lovers because it usually ends up in flames. So I think that's where you could kind of misconstrue there. And that's something I hadn't considered when Casey said it, inviting Dallas money, basically. We're going to make them a short home dog here. I was trying to not get carried away by what happened. Dallas getting blown out by New Orleans. There's a lot of theories that say like, hey, once a team's up big, like it's no different than just winning by 1, right? Like, essentially, right? Where the game was so over that as much as they pile it on, it doesn't necessarily matter. And this is to me, this is a statement that the odds makers think Baltimore is the better team. And I wasn't as sure. I think they're about even teams and honestly leaned Dallas as the better team. Again, 2-week sample size. I feel a lot worse about I think it's more of that I don't like the Ravens than I like Dallas. So again, if your reason is saying, look, they're inviting money here, let's go the other way. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It is a major inflection point for this Ravens team. And
I would even say it's a major inflection point for Dallas because coming into the year, I didn't power rate them strongly. And the Ravens, I power rated strong, but I was not saying they're the contenders for the AFC. And the O-line has really proven that. DVOA, even though they've gotten exposed through the air over the last 2 games, is still top 5 in the NFL. So there are those underlying metrics that are sound and are solid for the Ravens. But you go on the road, it is early in the year, but it feels do or die for both teams. It really does, especially for the Ravens with who they've got coming up. I'll throw one more stat at you. Lamar Jackson is the first MVP to start a season 0-2 since 2002, something that blew my mind. I mean, 0-2 isn't that crazy that an MVP couldn't fall into that. And then also Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar hadn't lost back-to-back games in 3 seasons. Obviously, an injury in between there shortens the amount of games played. But he is a winner at the end of the day. And I will give Casey that as a Ravens fan. 20-1 against the NFC, and it should be 21-0 if we're being completely honest. They blew a game to the Giants that they had no business losing. So betting on the winner versus the team that always finds a way to fall on their face, it does feel like this is a fine bet.
My favorite play in this game would actually be Lamar over rushing attempts. It was 8.5. It's now 9.5. And I would like if you don't want to go there, I like Lamar's yards as well. I think it's 58. He only ran the ball last week. You'd say 4 times. I'm not counting that last one. That was like the Hail Mary, effort. He only ran the ball really 4 times in that game. And he ran the ball a billion times against the Chiefs. We know, an old theory that these quarterbacks in big games tend to be willing to use their legs more often. Rarely, I think, do we get a gift in a week 3 where it's as massive of a game, an inflection point for the Ravens, that I think he takes matters into his own hands more often here. They talked about after the Kansas City game, they can't run him that much. So then they go the complete opposite and they can't close the game out against Vegas. So I think Lamar's going to use his legs here for sure against Dallas.
You're 100% right. I think he does. He's shown that all the time where he'll use his legs less in a game we're supposed to win. And even more than his decision making against the Chiefs, he may have had 5 or 6 direct run plays for him called by the offensive
design
coordinator.
runs.
Whereas the Raiders, there was maybe 0 or 1. I think there will be at least 4 or 5 design runs for him to begin with. So I like.
By the way, you have to mention he popped on the injury report coming out of the Chiefs game, and he's a full go this week. So I played his unders going into last week, especially on the yardage and the rushing attempts because of that injury designation. You if you follow the team that closely, I still do believe there's big edges in stuff like that. Not necessarily in picking teams, but knowing little things. I thought, unfortunately, it didn't pan out perfectly, but I had a call on Justice Hill to have 25-plus rush yards last week. He outsnapped Henry again as 10-point favorites. He would have hit that number plus 300, I would say, a majority of times. Still, obviously, crossed his normal prop at 14.5. But, yeah, if you're in tune with rotations and, styles, there are still edges to be had. When you get to the games and picking the sides, Tim, we were talking about this in Pittsburgh. It's just tough now. The data, the information, the amount of money being bet into a market, it just makes it so efficient.
And this isn't whining about being 1-9. It is one of the hardest things you can do is, and this is why it makes the contest hard. At least everyone plays to the same numbers. So that kind of, levels the playing field a bit, but just having to pick 5 winners from one time in one place, one contest or one book, and it freezes in time essentially because we picked this on Wednesday. To pick 5 winners or even 3 and 2 is extremely difficult. These numbers move all week. Anyone who's a real professional bets the entire week, even up until as the game's going on live. No better would recommend saying, you know what, just at Thursday morning at 10 o'clock, get all your bets in and then, go screw off for the weekend.
Yeah. I mean, even with fantasy football, like AJ Brown was a surprise inactive. There's so much information that changes, and it really changes a lot. So, Uppy, pick 2. What do we got?
You mentioned AJ Brown. That is a professional segue into my Eagles plus 2.5. This is simply a quintessential buy low, sell high. You won't see one better than this. The look ahead line was Eagles -3, 3.5. Now it's Eagles plus 2.5. Not a big math guy, but that's about 6-point difference now. The Saints, otherworldly, best offense we've ever seen. Eagles find ways to lose that are just outrageous. They completely blew that last game. Saints coming off 2 blowout wins. One against a pretty good Dallas team, the other against the worst team in the league. So obviously you got to upgrade them some, but to this extent just feels a bit long. We've seen the Saints put up 91 points through 2 games. It's the 3rd most points for any team in the first 2 games of a season in the Super Bowl era. That's just got to come back down to earth a bit. I mean, we're not going to say that Derek Carr is a top 5 quarterback now because they've been, Rashid Shaheed.
Hey, it's an election year.
I know that was a bit concerning. If you haven't seen this trend yet, go look up his stats in 2016, 2020, and now, 2024. But this is still the guy that is one of the worst quarterbacks against the spread as a favorite. This is a tried and true trend that I always go back to. I love to fade him and Dennis Allen as favorites. Carr's 22, 37, and 2 against the spread as a favorite. And then Dennis Allen is 9, 16, and 1 against the spread. That's 36%, one of the worst in the entire NFL.
Yeah, Uppy, how'd that go in week 1 when we tried to fade Dennis Allen?
It wasn't great, but we don't throw these out after 1 week. I'm not trying to overreact too much. I got to go back to the well and fade the Saints once again.
Tim, as our resident quote unquote sharp, is this a trap? Because I'm confused. This seems like the easiest Eagles plus 2.5 bet, like Eagles money line bet I've seen like maybe in my entire life. Is this a prototypical trap that we are falling into? Because
you think it's an over adjustment?
Yeah, I think the Eagles are clearly the better team.
If Saquon catches that ball, what's the line for this game?
I know. I've been hearing that all week. What's if he catches that ball?
Seriously. Yeah,
it's probably a pick, right?
Pick? Maybe. I mean, look,
this line is definitely factored in. AJ Brown is going to miss a couple weeks, which made their offense pretty stagnant, but they were still moving the ball.
By the way, they still moved the ball. It was just a very short game. Both teams ran the ball a lot, which bled clock, and they went for it, got stopped. In like if they kick there, they have more points than what it seems, obviously. Like I thought Hurts, like they kept saying it on the broadcast. They were like, Hurts is actually playing fantastic this game. It's like shocking that they only have this amount of points. So yeah, I'm baffled that they are getting 2.5. So is this a trap?
Here's what talks me off of this being a trap. So let's flash back to 2023. The Eagles start the season. What were they? 11 and 0, 11 and 1. What was the official number?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Then the wheels fall off the wagon, right?
Right.
So from then until now, Jalen Hurts is 2-7 straight up and 1-8 against the spread. So what that tells me is a number like that. The reason why you can't blindly bet trends is because eventually the number catches up. Did we just finally see the number catch up to Philly to what it should be?
That's super fair. My only thing is like that happened once Hurts was injured, and I think Hurts healthy now has shown he's running the ball more. I think his legs added a ton, especially in that.
Well, it's not necessarily a Hurts stat. I'm using it as a Philly.
No, I understand. Well. I'm just saying, like, obviously he plays a big part in the stat as a whole and the team as a whole. I think a healthy Hurts has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season. So yeah, it just feels like a major overreaction for me on both sides, unless what they're saying, which could very well be true, is this Eagles secondary is extremely fraudulent and the Saints passing game is as good as advertised and they're going to absolutely shred them. I'm a non-believer, I guess, in the Saints thus far. I get it. He's an offensive passing game genius, it seems, but yeah, I think it's an overreaction.
Yeah, I guess you got to come into it and just evaluate how much is Clint Kubiak worth to the Saints. And I think through 2 weeks, he's shown that it is a huge jump. Imagine if everything we know about Ben Johnson applies to Clint Kubiak. Then we would say this line is fair. Then we might even say it should be 3.5 because against a Philly defense and a Philly secondary who's going to sit back and not even get pressure. I mean, everything that the Eagles did in the offseason, from Ringo thinking he might be a starter, from DeJean thinking he might be able to play this year, from trading Reddick for Bryce Huff, who has a half a tackle in the season. The linebacking corpse is a corpse. Like, it's just a disaster. Slay cannot move. I mean, their defense could be one of the top 5 worst in the NFL. And last year, they were exposed by the end of the season. They were bad. It wasn't Hurts. That's what I think a lot of people miss. The Eagles' problem has not been scoring the football, even with Hurts nicked up. They scored a bunch of points last night or on Monday night. What they scored? 21 points, and then they were driving. So 21 points is going to win you a lot of games in the NFL, especially in today's NFL. And I think that when you have one of the worst secondaries in the league we need to evaluate the Eagles. We think 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, that deadly pass rush, the incredible secondary with Bradbury and Slay. And I just think 2 years removed from that, we're a little attracted to it. I think the offense can score, but I think it's a fair line. I do think it's an overreaction, but my thing would be, we didn't really cross many key numbers, right? So if the Eagles were going to be -2.5 and now the Saints are -2.5, yes, you are picking up a couple points, but you're not getting a key number here.
Well, through zero is a big deal. And the look ahead was Eagles 3.5. Eagles -3.5.
Yeah.
So we did.
If it's 3.5, it's a huge swing.
But I will say, I think if we get Eagles +3 in the contest, I'd really like it.
For sure. That's what I'm saying. For the
all
contest,
all this talk over the 2.5. It's Saints are going to win by 2 now, just because you've been fucking blabbing about the 2.
I hope so. I hate Philly, and I would love to win a bet
on to
here.
the next.
All right, Tim, do you have yours, or you want me to go?
You go.
All right. This is where I think we're overreacting from week 2. The Las Vegas Raiders are laying almost a touchdown in the NFL. I'm not going to tell you who the other team is because I might get in trouble, but my bet is Carolina +5.5 points. Play the clip from week 1 that said, let's never bet on the Carolina Panthers. We bet on the Carolina Panthers. We lost by 40 points. But we got a new quarterback.
You said never Bryce Young.
Never Bryce Young. So new QB, Andy Dalton is a massive upgrade. And we talked about this in week 1 with Brissett versus May, right? Like the veteran quarterbacks, Minshew. I think Minshew is a strong quarterback for Vegas. If you're just talking about covering a number, laying 6 points, 5.5 points. Are you out of your mind? The Raiders have 48 yards in the first half. They were horrific. And then they got into a passing situation. They got a couple PIs, and they win this game on paper. On the other side, are the Panthers bad? Yes. I've been saying that the roster is bad. But this is your classic. These are NFL players, not college players. And as bad as an NFL roster, this team would face Texas on a neutral, not the Texans, the Texas Longhorns. If Bryce Young was starting this week and they lost by 42 to the Raiders, which they probably would, First Take would say, could Texas or Georgia beat, the Carolina Panthers? And the Panthers would still be 82-point favorites in the game because the difference between NFL and college is so drastic. These are pros. This is the most classic spot. And I almost want us to lose because I think that the Saints are going to cover and I think the Cowboys are going to cover. So I wish I was taking the Raiders. So now, as we discussed, my mind is in a pretzel. But Dalton +5.5 against the Raiders is insane to me.
Time to argue about a half point for another 4 hours.
Is that a big number? Is 6 a key?
Yes.
I know it's a meaningful number, but it's a super key number here.
How about Philly Atlanta on Monday night? It really should have been with the Barkley. If Atlanta doesn't come back and score, it was 5.5 was the key number there. So 6 to 5.5.
Yeah, no, it didn't make a difference. So Andy Dalton driving down 75 yards in a minute and a half. We'll see it on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not. And I have this sickness where if I know a number was out there and I didn't get it, I am sick to my stomach and I nearly can't bet it. So I was lucky enough to get Carolina at what we get at 6.5, 7, 6.5.
7 when it opened.
I got 7. Yeah,
it was quick.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I get your thought process, and over time, that's going to be a winning strategy. But I would still like you have to remember that opener was on Bryce Young, right? So I would even argue that I'd play this down to 3.5. Like, what is the gap between Andy Dalton and Bryce Young right now? I think it's more than 1.5 points. I would say it's at least 2.5. Also, Dave Canales, who came over here from Tampa with Baker and, previously had success in the league, like, give him a good player and let's see what this guy can cook with. I think at this point,
Yeah, what
he's
he
just
did
got
with Baker Mayfield, I would argue, Andy Dalton in his prime, obviously past his prime, but he was a better quarterback than Baker.
All right,
I
how
think at this
much?
point they're fairly similar. We saw Dalton make one start last year for the Panthers, 361 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I mean, it's got to be a significant upgrade. I think saying, 3 points is a little absurd, despite your
Is
Bryce
it?
Young hate. I
Is
think that's a little much for a 36-year-old Andy Dalton coming off the bench cold. I mean, I can't correctly correlate, but it feels a little high, maybe a point and a half.
It's worthless to have this conversation, but I just need to stamp it. Like, Bryce Young is horrific. He can't see. He's miserable at the sport. I think he's a nice kid. I feel bad saying it, but I can confidently say 3 points. The gap between him and any quarterback in the NFL. The only one that's worse is Malik Willis. And Malik Willis came in and, he threw for 100 yards and got a dub. So I think it's a big upgrade.
38 quarterbacks have seen one snap this year. Bryce Young ranks 38th.
How much credit are we giving to Canales now that Baker is hooping without him?
Honey.
Okay.
I think this point is nearly moot because their problems are clearly so beyond any coach, any quarterback. The question is, will it help a little bit, Andy Dalton? I think absolutely, yes. But
but if the handicap is Canales works well with any usable quarterback, I'm just saying if
okay,
Baker
so let me give you the Baker numbers. Baker played against the worst secondary. This secondary for Washington could go down as the worst of all time, and it's not like Baker was dealing against the Lions.
I'm just throwing that out there.
Baker might just be like good getting away from Cleveland hell and Carolina hell.
Yeah.
Like that might kind of be the thing, having Mike Evans and Godwin, like a stable operation. It seems
he wasn't even that bad in Cleveland. Like they were in the playoff hunt.
Right. I mean, they would take him back right now in a heartbeat. No, Jack, I'm good. I think so many people are gonna play this in the contest. I think it's going to be so why this loses, right? If we play the why this loses game, it's just it was like too much of an overreaction between Dalton and Bryce Young, and that Carolina has deep problems beyond Bryce Young.
I think they have deep problems, and that's what I said week 1.
You're right.
That's why I said we can't bet them week 2 because they lost their best player. I'm not denying that. I think the overreaction is to Vegas. Like, since when are they like a team that should be almost a touchdown favorite? That just blew my mind. If they had lost to the Ravens, what would this spread be?
And it's one of the softest home fields in football, so that helps you out as well. I look, I bet it early in the week, so I got no problem with it. It's we could talk about contest numbers, but it means nothing to us because we're 1-9.
All right, Tim, do you have your pick?
Yeah. So here's the thing: if Jordan Love's not going to play, I love Tennessee -2.5. And so do we care for that rationale, or do I go elsewhere?
How many times is Will Levis going to do something stupid that doesn't allow the Titans to cover a game that they should?
Yeah, probably every time we bet him this year, and it's going to be, for a dozen more times.
Well, I didn't bet him last week.
Wild ride. I did, and it was an incredible ride. It was so fun and so fucking frustrating, but I loved it.
I had my that's enough Will Levis for the year moment week 1, we all know, against Chicago. But I'll tell you what, in gambling, you got to have stones. You got to be a sick fuck. And to watch what Will Levis has just done for the past 2 weeks and get back on the train Now that takes some balls. And you could argue this Tennessee team should be 2-0. You could argue this Tennessee team should be 2-0 and at least 2-0 against the spread. The reason that Green Bay was able to beat Indy is Indy had no answer for their run game. They would not change or make any adjustments throughout the entire game. Green Bay will not be able to gash Tennessee like they did Indy. By pretty much any metric, this Tennessee defense is a top 10 unit. And you look at the rushing numbers, EPA, they're 12th defensively. If you look even just the stats that I like, the dumb ones, rushing yards per attempt, rushing yards per game, Tennessee, Green Bay is not going to be able to use that formula against Tennessee. They're going to have to go somewhere else. And then we can get the Malik Willis factor. We didn't get Malik Willis to be Malik Willis in the Indy game because Indy wouldn't let him throw the ball, right? They couldn't stop the run. And that was their own demise. So getting back on Tennessee here, I think this team is being underrated because of what just happened. If you took just the snapshot of the stats and I didn't tell you the final score, you would have had to have thought Tennessee won those two games, at the very least covered. Yep. 2 blocked punts. It's 2.5, I think is a fantastic number. They are one of the unluckiest teams in the NFL. Nick Giffen does that over the Action Network. It is, you get a matchup like this, you got to hold your nose and do it. But if Jordan Love is going to play, then we have a good contest number. You're freezing at, we would think 2.5, 3, and you got to go play Green Bay. It should be a free square.
I'm going to pitch that we play Tennessee either way. I believe that Tennessee is a really strong defense. I think that we have a chance at $25,000. And I think that if we do happen to win that, we're going to make 2 games up on the field. I would imagine the field will come in around 80% on Green Bay here. Not 80%, 20% splits. 80% of the field will be on Green Bay. And I think a very small portion of people will be on Tennessee. I think the game
if Love plays, you're saying?
I think we play it either way. If Willis doesn't play, then I am in total agreement with you.
You mean Love?
If
Love doesn't play,
sorry. If Love doesn't play, I love that. If Love doesn't play, I love the Tennessee bet. I will be all over them, praying that it does not get to 3 and I can just hit 2.5 all day. If Love does play, I would still pitch that we play Tennessee minus 2.5 because I think both scenarios are in play. This is the classic. The quarterback comes back. Well, he's actually a little hurt. He's not as mobile, which plays to his strength. Tennessee's defense has been suffocating to start the season. And if they lose, we do fall to 1-10, and now we're a little bit closer. And by the way, the game theory works in the opposite direction too, because the losers like us, they're not going to be on Tennessee. They're going to be gobbling up Green Bay as they get all those points of value. So to me, Tennessee is an auto play given the very unique situation that we are in.
And this is why Jack is the boss, because that's such a fucking big brain strat.
That's so strong.
Talk through.
It really is. It's really, really strong. Like we don't want a free space in this contest. If anything, give us take our chances. We either contrarianly make up on the field, or we have a good pick. Or
we literally can't lose.
Yeah, we can't lose.
And we can tell ourselves that it's a win-win situation.
Yeah, I created one with the Cowboys-Ravens, and now we've created one with the Titans-Packers. I mean, 2 of 4 picks thus far being win-wins is a good start.
No, Jack, that's fantastic. God, that makes me feel so much better about it.
I love Tennessee. I really do, and I think we get a lot of value back on the other side. So,
all right, consensus time.
Let's do the consensus. Anyone have a pick that want to be offered up?
I have one. If people want to hear me out, I like the Jets.
Whoa.
I don't like the Jets. I like the Patriots plus 6. I like the Patriots plus 6.5. Tim, I think when you talk about not wanting to bet Thursdays, I think usually the way that results is a kind of muck it up ish closer game, like the Dolphins Bills. I feel like there's more results of Thursday games ending up close because they're Thursdays rather than further away. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. And I think the Bills Dolphins one was just kind of out of the ordinary.
I'll correct you. I don't necessarily agree. Tim's theory on not betting Thursday is because there's so many players out, and I think it actually leads to teams throwing in the towel.
Well, I was asking Tim if he actually. You're just saying that based off nothing. I was curious if he actually knew the answer.
Like you,
I
think you
saw
had
s-
the
I
points
think
per
I think
game
he'd have an
margin?
idea.
I saw something 3 years ago that said Thursday night games,
There we go.
like favorites, big favorites were tremendously strong because not only was the other team,
I told you you'd have an answer.
not only is the other team, so the books are clearly saying one team's better than the other. And then usually when there's injuries or short weeks for both teams, that favors the favorite even more because it really is just about who has the better team. And in a week when you can't prepare as much, the better team is usually, it's like playing at a playground, right? Just roll the balls out. The more talented team will win.
Yep.
I don't know if it's adjusted since then, but I knew that about 3-4 years ago to be true.
Okay.
That doesn't-
So can we
doesn't
get
help
off
the
the? Can we get off?
Well, that
the
wasn't
thing?
really the reason that I wanted them.
I don't.
No, the
all right,
reason
before you give the whole.
Well, I'm gonna just
can
give
we
the
just?
whole spiel because if we could end up 3-1, we understand.
I know.
your
Well,
guess.
let's just take a poll real quick.
Well,
Do
maybe they
peop-
want to hear my
Do
points.
people
and I
have
could
an
turn
interest
them.
in the Patriots? Real quick. Like I'm on the Jets.
I'm interested in the Patriots.
Okay.
Thank you. So the Patriots,
And one
you're
of the
getting
reasons
6.5.
why, before you say something incredibly stupid, one of the reasons why is Green Bay is in a brutal travel spot. If you didn't know this, week 1 at San Francisco, Monday Night Football. Week 2 at Tennessee, and now short week coming home. So I believe this is the 3 games in whatever it is, 15 days, something.
4 minus 4 rest days. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that,
I also
hell of a unique
think-
spot.
Yeah, I also think 6.5 points in any division game is a lot. Division teams know each other the best, and on a short week, maybe you don't need as much time to. I understand Rodgers; it's a different offense, but they know tendencies. I also think that New England has done the best at staying committed to the run and actually running the ball well against a Bengals team who did a pretty good job against the Chiefs' run game, and then did a good job. I mean, realistically, was it a blocked field goal or they missed the field goal, the Patriots would be 2-0 right now after wins against Seattle and the Bengals. I think the Patriots team might actually be good, and they're very scrappy. I feel like they are going to love playing spoiler in this spot. The Jets, their first home game, they finally have hope because they got their first win. Prime time, Rodgers at home, run it back after he got injured last time. Patriots come in, play spoiler in MetLife. I love the spot for the Patriots. The Jets D is very suspect, and I think the Patriots could have a ton of success on the ground, shorten the game, 6.5 points. I could see this turning out to be a similar Falcons-Eagles thing, where it looked like the Eagles kind of dominated the game the entire time, but since you run the ball well enough and you shorten the game, all of a sudden 6.5 is a spread that you would love to have on your side.
Favorites of 6 or more on Thursday Night Football. 61-45 against the spread. This is good for 57.5 against the spread.
Jets are 0-7, I believe, in their last primetime games.
Yeah, because Mark Sanchez was playing.
Rodgers isn't that much better.
Right. I was going to say, you can't bring into any
the Jets in
trends
all
on-
games. The Jets in all games.
They've been playing Tom Brady for a decade. You can't do any Jets trends from the last, 15
No, not
years.
Jets versus Pats, just Jets.
No, and again, what? So if you say the Jets are bad in primetime, why do you think that is? So there has to be
Because
a theory to why.
their quarterbacks suck.
No, because they've
Does
been
it-
6-point underdogs. Like
Does
this
it-
is the point. And then 6-point underdogs blow you out on Thursday Night Football.
What
And
do you think? What do you think the Jets have been in the same time period you're talking about of playing poorly in primetime games? What do you think how do you think they fared against the spread on Sunday and Monday as well? Just your hunch.
Pretty well.
Probably not. The point is, what I'm saying is,
Well,
the Jets
no,
are.
I feel like I feel like the Jets were pretty scrappy and covered some games last year.
The Jets have.
Yeah.
You want me to do it right now? Let me do Jets last couple of years.
Tell me their Jets record ATS last year.
It's all stupid. You're talking about primetime. We're also talking about one of their primetime games. Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, and then they won on a punt return. Like, there's so many. The stat that matters.
I need Jets record.
The trend that matters is big favorites cover on Thursday night because of exactly what Tim said. And you just fucking said you would bet on the Patriots being good this season.
They
stick with that. Double down right now. You just said that.
Maybe they're better than people were expecting.
Well, people thought they were going to be the worst team in the NFL.
Right,
so,
and they beat the Bengals straight up on the road
and
should have beaten the Seahawks.
And you're buying into the Patriots.
I'm buying into the Patriots being a scrappy team.
Buy in all you want.
Casey, I got bad news for you. Jets, ATS, by year. Last year, 6-10-1. Year before, 9-8. Year before, 6-11. Year before, 6-10. Year before, 7-9. Year before, 5-10.
What does that have to do with anything?
You just asked.
I asked for 2023.
Okay,
you could have stopped at 6-10-1. Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah, they were scrappy.
All right, I feel like we're debating, but on the same side. So you're good with Patriots. All we need is Uppy, and we can lock this in.
No, we're not locking this in.
No, I will never have it. I will never have a Thursday game on my contest card.
Actually, you know what? If we want to lose, I'm down to take the bet. I actually think the Patriots plus 6.5 would be a losing bet.
By the way, Jack being this confident should be alarm bells.
You're equally as confident.
No, I'm not. I'm actually not.
And this is just because you hate the Jets and you don't see straight.
No. All right. I'll throw one that has a little bit more reasoning. I like the.
Yeah, here we go. Uppy's reasonings.
I like the Bears. I think this is a great bounce back spot for the Bears. I think that the Colts somehow made Malik Willis and that offense look decent. Tim mentioned the poor rushing defense. Indy ranks 32nd in the league in rushing yards allowed per game. We now get Caleb, mobile quarterback similar to Malik Willis. You know, I know the Bears' offensive line is terrible, but can the Colts really take advantage of that? They're only averaging 2 sacks per game. I will say that Swift has struggled, so, you know, he's averaging 2 yards per carry. Is he going to be able to really take advantage of this terrible Colts run defense? I'm not so sure. I just think the Bears' defense is great. Anthony Richardson so up and down. Who knows what we're going to get? I could see them shutting him down. And then you got to just hope that the Bears' offense can have some semblance of continuity and score the ball against this terrible Colts defense.
I'm in. Count me in for the Bears.
I'm personally out. Tim?
Out. I don't like the other side, but I don't like the game.
On to the next.
What? This is such a good bet. Oh my God. This is Tennessee Green Bay all packed into this different packaging. This is people.
By the way, you make fun of my biases, and I want Caleb to be good and the Bears to be good. You're the biggest biased person towards
the Bears have an elite defense.
I know, but you keep saying
the Bears have an elite defense.
On Caleb. He's going to be okay. He's going to be okay. I agree, but you also have the biggest bias on the Bears.
That's not a bias.
Why?
That is a do not overreact.
Because you believed one way going in.
No, because everyone believed that he was a generational prospect.
Right.
And he's played 2 weeks against 2 defenses that were nightmares for them.
I'm just
like we're talking about DeAndre Swift as averaging 2 yards per carry. That's because he's played 2 elite defenses.
Or because he sucks. He was awful on the Eagles, and you see Saquon on that same Eagles team succeeding at a very high clip.
Saquon is the least efficient running back in the NFL through 2 weeks.
He
yeah, there you go. Nice. Okay.
You talk like you actually know.
I'm
like
just referencing
gift.
Fucking statistics. Like
okay.
you're.
No, you just don't like when I put it back on you.
You can put it back.
You have a Bears bias.
You can put it on me. It just doesn't make sense. Okay. You're biased because you dislike your friends who are Jets fans.
I'm talking about the Bears.
But you just said I'm biased towards them. When I'm saying that everyone agreed that Caleb Williams was a generational prospect. And what I'm saying is maybe let's not overreact to him playing 2 weeks the way that everyone freaked out about Marvin Harrison Jr. And look how fucking stupid they look right now. That's what I'm saying.
On to the next.
I'm not biased towards him. So good job trying to gaslight me. You've lost again. Anyone have another consensus pick?
Jacksonville plus 5.5.
The Jags.
I completely agree. This is one of the first bets I made this week. Jags plus 6.
Me too.
I don't have a ton of reasoning aside from that anti-Bill stuff I've been spewing for the last several weeks, and I think that all still applies and has gotten worse with even more defensive injuries.
I like the Jags as well.
Let me play devil's advocate because I think I got played personally. We assessed all the Bills' losses as a net negative, right? And I think losing a play like Stephon Diggs hurts, but we were talking mostly on the defensive side of the ball. But one thing we may have overlooked was they lost a lot of players, but could they replace them with strong players? And I think
Damar Hamlin.
I think when you look at Kansas City, people always talked about the guys they would lose, but then they came in and they replaced them with young players like a Bolton, like a McDuffie, all those types. And so far, I know it's only been 2 weeks, but we have seen them replace and look fairly strong. The win over Arizona, I think, gets upgraded. The win over Miami, I think McDermott owns him. And Lawrence, I was the biggest Lawrence believer, similar to how I think Caleb will be great. But Lawrence has lost 8 straight games. And I think maybe the Bills are a little bit better. I think it's a good spot. I think if we just look at spots, Bills are overhyped right now on rest, and the Jags are, they're down at 0-2. I don't love the play personally.
So here's the thing. If you go back to the Jacksonville-Cleveland game, Jacksonville outgains Cleveland in every single category. Total yards, 223 to 290, 323 to 297. Passing yards, outgained them there. 196 to 172. Rushing, 127 to 125. So the difference of the game ended up.
But in the same fashion, you look at Dallas and Cleveland in week 1, right? And Dallas, they were killing them, but then Cleveland got Trevor Lawrence had 12 passing yards at the half. So that was a lot of playing from behind. I'm just saying that could be fool's gold potentially.
But this wasn't down this wasn't down 50. This wasn't down 25. This wasn't down 21. This game ended 18-13.
Agreed.
The reason that the Jaguars lost this game is because they were 1-4 in the red zone. They were 1 for 4.
But they're 1-4 in the red zone every time. Like, this is Lawrence's issue, is he cannot finish, right? So we can't always say that, the regression is the mean. When we do have to evaluate, at this point in Trevor Lawrence's career, this really may just be who he is, right? He may be a middle-of-the-pack quarterback.
Even moderate, even pedestrian red zone numbers cover you against Buffalo. Like, we don't need to go 4 for 4. Can't go 2. Can't go 2 for 4. 50%. That'd be.
They go 2 for 4. They scored 14 points. They kicked 2 field goals. I don't know. Are they holding Buffalo to their team total is 27. So I wouldn't say that guarantees that they cover.
I also like Peterson as a dog. 33-26 ATS as a dog. Way better as a dog than a favorite. And I think I'm trying to. The way I go about this is which box scores were deceiving from the previous weeks that I don't think people are accounting for enough, especially the betting market.
Yeah, I also think if ETN fumbles on the 1 yard line and they beat a fully healthy Dolphin squad, all of a sudden they're 1-1, not 0-2, and then lost a really tight one on the road to a great Browns defense. I think it's a great bet.
So are we saying their defense is strong? Because even when ETN fumbled, they were inept in the second half. Like, they've now put up 4 straight quarters, second half Miami, first half against Cleveland, where they've just been inept. And if they fall behind against a Buffalo team that runs the rock really, really well, I just don't. They need to front run this situation.
This seems like, and this is a straight vibes thing, but this seems like the game where off the long week after a great win, like Allen should be locked in. Like this seems like a Allen turnover game, like to a T.
Well, it's no reason to bet it. It's just you think he's going to turn the ball over. I could float that one to you.
I just want to throw one more out just to see if it could interest all four. Is there a chance the Buccaneers are really good? I predicted the Broncos to have the worst record in the NFL this season. If the Panthers were going into Tampa, what would that spread be? Is there a chance the Broncos are as bad as the Panthers and we should take the 6.5 with the Bucs?
No, I think that the Broncos defense is strong-ish. And I think that they face 2 top 5 units. Like I'm really high on Seattle's defense with McDonald. I think the Steelers defense is lights out. And now you get a bit lighter of a defense here.
And Tampa is still completely banged up on the back end. Detroit just couldn't make them pay. They were another team that I think they were like 1 for 6 in the red zone. So I feel like it's not the time to buy Tampa stock, like, in terms of week to week basis. Last week, it should have made our freaking card, but I thought last week was the week. I think it's a tall task. It's kind of a sleepy game for Tampa Bay here, right? You get a big upset win on the road, Detroit, and now Denver here. They've been dreadful, but again, Tampa Bay's secondary has been dreadful.
I mean, I didn't even realize the box score. We're talking 26 first downs to 14. They were 139 rushing yards to 70, 324 Goff threw for against 146 for Mayfield.
Yeah,
I agree. This is like what you're pitching is not buying Tampa. You're selling off Denver. I think that they've already been sold pretty low. They could go lower.
I think,
but a lot lower. I don't necessarily know.
All right, so is the only thing we have 3 on the Jags?
I think it's now Jags and Bears.
Anyone have a lean Houston, Minnesota? I feel like everyone's kind of avoiding that. Giants, Browns is 6.5. That feels disgusting. Rams, Niners is 7. Detroit Cardinals is 3. And the only game we haven't really touched on is Chiefs, Falcons, 3.5. That look ahead was closer to 5.5. I think it was going to be 4.5. And now it's settled at 3.5. No feel on that one either.
That's exactly how I feel. I can't touch any of those. I can't touch any of those.
All right, my vote is Jags.
So it's Jags plus 5.5 versus the Bills, or Bears plus 1 against Indy.
Both road dogs. I like them both a good bit. I would say I like the Bears slightly more.
Yeah, I like Bears slightly more.
If they deal 6 to the Jags, auto. 5 is like 5.5 is like maybe. And as we move our way down, like it obviously feel less and less about it. So I think if Jags plus 6, I think would trump all. I'm fine with Chicago if you guys want to go there.
I mean, if that's the consensus, that's fine. I'm against, but that's why it's a consensus.
Right. Jags plus 6 will be the consensus. If it's 5.5, we're rolling with the Bears.
So what makes us think we're going to get 6?
Buffalo?
Sometimes they toss out rogue numbers. It did open 6. So again, some of these, they're smarter than we are in terms of what they toss.
Boys. I think we cooked a 1 and 4. I love it.
We did. Yeah, we do it.
Your pick's the winner. You think your pick's the winner?
No, I just think between the 5, like I think we got a 1 and 4. Job well done, fellas.
Okay, so we have Casey with the Ravens minus 1.5. We have me with Tennessee minus whatever the number for contest reasons. Uppy, you're on. Who are you on?
Eagles plus 2.5.
Eagles plus 2.5, and Jack is.
I'm on the Panthers. We've come full circle through just 3 weeks, and the consensus is Jags 6 or Bears 1.5 or 1.
Very good. So smells like 0-5.
All right, fam. We'll see you for week 4. We'll keep you updated on our progress. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Best of luck in all your bets. Make sure to follow Snapback Bets everywhere you do. Peace.